If you are someone who has been trying to get a handle on food for as long as you can remember, and you feel like you have tried everything, that you're at a point where you don't even know if it's possible for you to have food freedom, this episode is going to inspire the heck out of you, because today you're going to hear from Mandie, who spent over 30 years dieting, tracking, managing her weight, and trying to fix herself around food, only to discover that food was never the problem. And what actually healed her relationship with food had nothing to do with willpower, discipline, or another plan. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Wow, you chose such a good episode to press play on, because I just got off of my conversation with Mandie, who you're about to hear from, and even I'm inspired. I love to bring to you these stories of women who have just gone through this journey of healing their relationship with food, or who are currently going through it, because I know that sometimes it can be hard to look at coaches or look at someone like me and to see yourself in that story, because we come up with all of these reasons why we're different, right? She's a coach. She knows more than me. She studies this. She's been doing it for longer than me. She's younger than me. She's more capable than me. And I do it too. Like, I do it with people all of the time. We find reasons to to justify our limitations or why something is impossible for us. And it's a protection mechanism. But I want to bring to you stories of women who are just like you, who felt the exact same way that you feel just a couple of months ago. And Mandie is no stranger to the frustration and the hopelessness and the exhaustion that comes with feeling trapped by food obsession, binge cycles, and constant mental noise. So I don't want to give too much away. I will say, stick around for the whole conversation. She gives so many gold nuggets of wisdom, and we talk about the uncomfortable middle of healing, the part that no one really talks about, no one prepares you for. And what I love about Mandie is how honest she is about the lessons that she had to learn, the emotions that she felt in the process, the parts of the journey where she felt like, am I doing this wrong? And the fears that came with letting go of multiple decades of dieting and Weight Watchers and controlling her weight. So if you're ready to hear what it took for her to rebuild this unshakable self-trust and confidence with herself around exercise, eating, her body, and just her general life choices, let's welcome the incredible Mandie. Why don't you start by telling me a little bit more about what your relationship with food was like prior to us working together?
Yeah. So my relationship with food, most of my life has been interesting. There's been a deep connection and almost like a therapeutic draw to food. It was my comfort, my buddy, my friend, most of my life, just helping me deal with hard things. But it also, I had been dieting since I was a little girl. My parents, my mom, just trying to do the right thing and help me as much as she could with as much knowledge as she could, helping me, guiding me because I was a little bit heavier. And so I've been on multiple diets and programs throughout the years.
What age did you start?
Oh, I want to say like 10 or 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And so my mom was also trying to manage her weight. And I think she thought, we can do it together. And I totally understand that
Yeah.
because as a mom myself, you're thinking like, how can I make this easy for my child? How can I save them from the pain
Hmm.
of dealing with, rejection or whatever and do whatever I can?
Yeah.
She was just grabbing at whatever resources were available to her.
So what did it start with?
I think it was Jenny Craig.
Okay. Yep.
Do you guys
That
have
was a big one back then. My friend was on it too. Yeah.
Yeah, Jenny Craig. And then I want to say it went to Weight Watchers, maybe Nutrisystem, Slim Fast. That was a big one. Like my mom did that because I think she just didn't, and to this day, she like doesn't want to think about cooking her food. So it's like, okay, shake for breakfast, a shake for lunch, and then I'll just have a reasonable dinner. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll have that too, because that's what my mom's doing. So again, with all good intentions. So all of the diets, I think that almost every person, later in life, became Atkins and South Beach and, the Suzanne Summers. I mean, I can't, there are too many to count.
How would you say that starting a diet at 10 years old affected the way that you felt about your own body and the way that you related to food in your teenage years?
Well, there was a huge effect, I think, because you were always either counting calories or thinking about food, obsessing about food, how much to eat, how much not to eat. I also am a professional singer. At that point, I was pursuing a career as a teen. And so I was constantly in the eyes of people on stage in public, on public display. And so there was that aspect too of you're on camera, what are you wearing? Is it flattering? Let's cover your arms. Let's, all these different things. So yes, a huge impact. And I mostly saw how big and impactful that was when I became a mom.
Mm.
Because it was like, I didn't want to repeat any of those things with my kids. Hey, wear this because, it makes you look slimmer. Or that's really when things started becoming really real. And I knew I had to do like a deeper dive. But like growing up, being on diets and different things, I don't think you realize it at that time, but looking back, I can see that it was what was meant to be so helpful and supportive really wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And all it did was make me obsess about food, about perfection, about my body looking a certain way.
And what was the pattern like? You mentioned you've done every diet, all of the fad ones and the common ones. What was the pattern like? Did you maintain a stable weight? Was there binging? Was there like being on track and off track? What was that like for you?
I want to say as a young child, before I started dieting, I wasn't involved in music at the time. I was very bored at home. And so I don't know what happened, but for some reason food became exciting. So I remember binging at a young age, like maybe 9, 10, 11, because I'd go to school, come home, be bored. I wasn't in sports. So what else was there to really do?
Mm.
And I was a bit of an introvert at that time. So I just found solace in eating and food. And so I remember that was a thing. Also, the weight loss journey, like I would lose some weight, but then, we'd go off the program. So it wasn't like a maintenance program, after you lost the weight, it was like, you made it. And then I was like, well, how? I didn't really understand what maintenance was at that age. It was just like, okay, I lost the weight. So, and then of course I gained it back. And then I want to say like when I was a senior in high school or around that age, or maybe first year of college, I had lost, not a ton of weight, but maybe like 25, 30 pounds. And, it was one of those things where, you break up with a boyfriend and you're so heartbroken and you're like, I'm gonna,
My
look
revenge
great.
body.
Yes. And so, and then maintain that for a little while, but it was very strict eating control. And then I had something traumatic happen in my life and a lot of weight came back on. And then again, I was on Weight Watchers. I was on Weight Watchers for about 16, 17 years, attending weekly meetings and very dedicated. all throughout, marriage, wedding, two babies, all of that. One thing I really had to work with, and I know you and I worked on the word overeating instead of binging, but like I would constantly have great days for a long stretch and then one massive binge. And then it would take me weeks to get back on the wagon, as they say. And then that started getting better and better as I started studying and learning more. Like I'd have a binge and then I would get right back on track, maybe like the next day. So the recovery was better, but I couldn't understand. And honestly, I would eat so many calories. It was kind of crazy to me. And I didn't understand why I would do that, be so disciplined and then lose complete control.
Yeah. And I want to highlight something for anyone who's listening, that you are someone who has done so much in your life. You have two beautiful kids. You have a wonderful marriage. You have this great career. You are a recovering perfectionist, we will say, and you have very high standards for yourself and for others. And there's this idea that if you struggle with food, and I felt that way too, I saw myself as this overachiever my entire life. I did well in school, I did well in sports. And when I started so deeply struggling with food, it was almost even worse, because there's this association of like, if I struggle with food, it must mean that I am weak or I am lazy or I'm not disciplined. And so what was some of those thought processes that you had about the fact that you were struggling with food so much?
Well, I think like most people who I've heard on your podcast, even, you're like, look, I have so much control and discipline in so many other areas in my life. I don't understand why this area is so difficult. Not that I expected myself to master it, but I just didn't understand why it had such a hold on me. Whereas like anything else, like I'd be like, why would I do that? Why would I not apply myself? Or why would I not, so I had very strict standards for myself as far as like exercise went. If I missed a day, oh boy, like there would be some shame and guilt there. If I binged, there would be a tremendous amount of judgment on myself. Why did I do that? And so it affected me greatly, because I wanted to understand like why this was. And there was so many layers and factors. And like you said, it was like, all I saw was the tip of the iceberg. I didn't understand what was lying beneath.
Yeah. So why don't you tell me, in the couple of years leading up to us working together, what were the biggest issues that you were still dealing with when it comes to food? Because I know you said like when you had your kids and you became a mother, you started becoming really aware of like, okay, this is a problem. This is something I have to deal with. But it took you a really long time before actually going underneath the surface and looking at what was driving those behaviors. So those couple of years leading up to us working together, what did you think was the problem? What were you trying to do to fix it?
Well, like I had mentioned, I was on Weight Watchers. So I thought, well, I'm going to lose the weight. And I did. So a couple years or about a year before you and I started working together, I had lost around 60 pounds. And I had gotten to my goal weight, as Weight Watchers would say. And I was trying so hard they have like a 2-pound window. They have a big window, but it's very low, like for me to be at that low point. And so I was constantly trying to stay in this window in maintenance. And one of the hardest things, I had a wonderful, wonderful group of people at Weight Watchers that I love. They're my friends. And we've been doing this journey forever. But it was, I didn't want to let anybody down, because they had watched me. And I was like, oh gosh, I don't want to like gain all the way. You see people come back. Hey, it's my 10th time, which is, I understand. Like we know why they keep coming.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're like, oh, I don't want to be that person, like coming back 40 pounds heavier. So I just kept going, but it was so hard, Sabrina. It was so hard to stay in one spot. And And I was like, this is so difficult. And I remember telling you, I'm like, I do not want to be 90 years old counting points. Like, and it's not that I understand that there's a format and a way that people need to do things and tools that they need to do to be planning. So it wasn't about like, I don't want to count calories. It was just like, I don't want to obsess. I could not get the obsession of maintenance out of my brain. And that's when I found you. And I was like, I don't know if you remember, but I said, if this doesn't work, I have no idea what in the world will.
I have heard that so many times before. I love being the last resort. There's something about it that it puts pressure, but it's also it makes it a little bit more difficult to communicate just how different this is going to be because you had tried so many things. And correct me if I'm wrong, you found me through my podcast?
Yes.
My podcast. And what was it about the podcast or my approach that resonated with you and that like planted the seed of maybe there's something that I'm missing. Maybe there's something else going on here.
Well, I remember during my search of trying to find something that would work, I was looking a lot more into intuitive eating or, eating between, hunger and fullness, that kind of thing. I had tried intuitive eating. I'm not saying intuitive eating doesn't work. It totally works now.
Yeah.
But it needed for me, like a little bit of guardrails. And so I just knew I'm like, okay, I love this concept of intuitive eating. I love this idea, but it's so foreign to me. And what I have been learning over the last like 30 years of my life that I don't even know where to begin. So I knew that I needed something. I had had trauma in my life, an incident when I was younger, and my oldest daughter had brain cancer. So there's stuff there. And it's not like I, put it under the carpet. I did deal with it. I did go to counseling. And that's probably why I wanted to work with you, because I knew that counseling helped me so much in these other areas that I'm like, this is a problem. The worst thing for me was I started putting the judgment that I put on myself on others. Mm-hmm. And I did not want to be that person. I did not want to be that one going, oh, well, maybe they should lose weight. I didn't want to be that person. Like, it scared me. And that was one of the things that propelled me to work with you, because I'm like, I don't want to be that woman that's judging other women. I want to be an encourager. I want to be someone that pours into people, and especially my daughters, because they're teenagers. So I don't want to be that person going, and I never really was with my kids saying like good and bad foods. I always would use words like helpful and this is a good choice. And then saying it's okay to have treats in the house. Like I didn't ban everything, but I just knew that there was this internal struggle, this mind battle that was constant. And it wasn't just food noise. It was just a constant like knocking at my door. And I'm like, I can't live this way. Mm-hmm. And that's what led me to you. And I loved the fact that you talked about just a lot of awareness, like even like I don't know if you'll bring this up, but that masculine and feminine energy leaning into things, it's very hard for me to lead into that more feminine side. And you explained that so well of what each is.
Yeah.
But the more I leaned into that, the more relaxed I became.
Yeah. I think that's a really important point. Is you mentioned like it was more than food obsession. It was this constant, and the way that I describe it, because I've experienced it with food, I've experienced it with work, it kind of follows you from one thing to another. It's almost like you're wearing a straitjacket, and it feels like there's this rigidity and this inability to just relax and be present and enjoy the moment. There's always like this hypervigilance that's there. And I know that a lot of the work that we did around your nervous system was to ease that hypervigilance, because we have this idea that the hypervigilance is helping us, quote unquote, stay in control. It's helping us make better choices around food. And I'm sure that you experienced that as well. Like, what were some of those fears that you had about doing something that was so different and that would require you to ease into more of an intuitive approach? Like, was there any fears or doubts that you had before starting and before saying yes to yourself?
Yeah, well, a couple of fears just overall that I had was gaining the weight back. That was a huge fear of mine because I had worked so hard to get it off. So I thought if I ease up, if I just think about what's going on in my mind, then I'm not really doing something. Like, whereas you're like, if I'm counting calories or if I'm going to a workout class or whatever, that is action. And then what I told you, I kept telling you every week, every time we're working together, I was like, this is hard work. Like, I got to tell you, like, this is a different kind of work, but I'm in it. And I took my time, like I'm still working through our sessions and our work together and your program. But yeah, that was a definite fear. Another fear was that if I actually, and I didn't know anything about dysregulation in my nervous system. Like things like, oh, I don't really like to cry, or I don't really like to, think about bad things or whatever.
Rest.
I don't really like to rest. Yeah, I remember saying like, it's really hard for me to just be like, go take a nap. Like I can't, like, no, if I go take a nap, one of my fears I remember sharing with you, if I go do those things, then I don't know if I thought I would never wake up. Or,
I'll never start back up again.
Right. Like
Yeah.
if I go do that thing, I remember telling you, if I just go take a 10-minute break and just sit on the couch, I'm afraid I won't get back up. But then you and I talked through a lot of our work was about building evidence and creating that evidence and self-trust. And so I had to really practice like, okay, let's try that 10 minutes on the couch. And then you're like, did you get up from the couch? I'm like, I did. And, it's just these things where you go, oh, where in my mind, I didn't want to be that lazy person. And I'm not judging any person. This was just how I looked at myself.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to look or appear or even in the slightest, be less productive. And to me, weight loss and all that journey was all about productivity. Do this, do that, don't do this, do that. And I was just like, I don't want to live that way anymore. Like you said, like in a straitjacket, it's like crazy town
Mm-hmm.
in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a fear of mine that if I would lean more into those choices of, you know what, I'm a vocal coach, I'm a performer, so I'm going to take on less clients. And then I would get really nervous about that and, be like, well, because I wanted more time, or I'm not going to work in the afternoons because my daughter's a competitive swimmer and I take her to practice and I want to be there. Like you said, being more present, that was something I wanted more of. And I knew that like my brain just would not shut down, especially around food and fitness.
I think you bring up something that doesn't get talked about enough, which is that when you are living with that straitjacket, and I still experience it in these little ways every day, because we're always going to have something else to heal. And so for me, like the way that it shows up in the winter especially is this like inability to just rest without a reason for it, because I'm spending so much time at home. And what you mentioned, which is not talked about enough, is that a lot of people have this desire for something different. You wanted to be more present with your kids. You wanted to be more relaxed. You wanted to rest more. You didn't want to feel like you constantly have to be doing something. And so a lot of people have these desires. And the things that you need to do in order to bring that into your reality are going to scare you. Even if it's something like a 10-minute break, they're going to scare the average person so much that we won't do it because we're scared of what that will lead to. I used to not take a rest day from exercise because I was scared I was going to enjoy it so much that I was never going to start up again. And so we think, well, yeah, I just won't take a rest day so that I'm in this momentum, I'm in this rhythm. And the benefit of working with someone and paying someone is that it literally forces you to do the thing that you don't want to do and that you're so scared of doing, because you're like, well, I paid this person, so clearly I'm committed to doing the thing that's going to push me. So the fact that you did those small things and then it was reinforced that it was safe for you to do. It was safe for you to take that 10-minute break. It was safe for you to sleep in instead of waking up at ass crack of dawn and doing a workout when you didn't feel like it. It was safe for you to bring certain foods in the house. You wouldn't have been able to build up that evidence for yourself that you could do it if you weren't a little bit pushed to do it even when you were scared.
100%. I mean, I think of even things that have changed so much. If I could share, is like, I used to do, and I still do. I like to work out. So I enjoy it. But, if it was like a yoga or something like less intense, I would be like, oh, well, that doesn't count. Like I am not saying it doesn't, it totally counts. But I wouldn't give myself the permission that would count, because that's what my body was calling for. Mm-hmm. But now I belong to a program. It's a wonderful, it's not a gym, but it's a kind of like a center where it's called the Bar Method. And it's totally different kind of workout, completely different than anything I would have ever signed up. I would have been that hardcore, like, and I still do lift heavy. I do all those things, but like, this is like, I love the community of people. I love being in that environment. I love the positive. I wake up happy to go and be there. I never have dread. That was a big one. Dread. I know for you, we've talked through that. And then even just giving myself the permission to actually sign up and make a commitment there. So not only was I making a commitment to you, but also there. And it was just such a game changer to do something different. And then I had to build that trust with myself. That was so huge. Building the trust. And then also, like with food and stuff, what is the most loving thing you can do for yourself? I would always write that down. So if I would eat something or do something, I'd be like, is this loving? And sometimes if it was a dessert or something, yeah, it was totally loving. Mm-hmm. And then other times I'm like, that was not loving. Or even, if I could just share one thing that really helped me so much, Sabrina, that we worked through, is the fact that you would want me to think about how food feels in my body. I had never thought about how food feels in my body, ever. I mean, you would kind of know, oh, too much candy, too much this. But once I started really like dialing in, like, hey, this feels good in my body, I quickly recognized what didn't. And then I was like, oh, I kind of don't want that. But it wasn't because it was too many calories, and it wasn't because it was addicting. It was because it didn't feel good in my body. It was like a foreign concept.
Mm-hmm. And you likely had heard the words, listen to your body before, like so many times before. And this is something that I wish more people understood, is there's a huge difference between hearing words and understanding the concept intellectually and being like, that sounds great. I totally agree with that. And then to live through it and to embody it and for it to become wisdom. It's like this light bulb goes off and you're like, oh, this is what this thing that I've heard 100 times before, this is what it means for me. And like, I think that there's probably a lot of the things that we did together that resonated differently when you started living it.
Yes. And it was like, when I was working with you, it was almost like someone giving you permission. Like you listen to podcasts, you listen to different things, and you're like, maybe I'll do that. Maybe maybe this would work, but will it? And then having someone say, but what if you just tried that? Mm-hmm. What if you brought that one food in? And then I could always email you and be like, hey, I did that thing. It worked. Like, I did okay. I ate like 50 avocados, but I just remember avocados was such, I mean, out of all the foods, or peanut butter. I'm like, this
Yeah.
is this is nuts. Like this is so, this is crazy. But I do remember like how working with someone, it definitely gives you that. It's not just the boost and the encouragement that was always there, but it was also this like, you can try that. And you're like, I really can because someone else said it.
Hmm.
Like that.
Someone
And
you trust. Yeah.
someone I trust, someone that knows the journey. Even as I listen to podcasts that you do, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I had that same thought. That absolute, going to parties or things, and you're like, I'm not going to eat that. I'm just, or the hard workout before the big celebration just to have more calories to eat, like all of those things.
Yeah.
So I think you're so relatable and it's very comfortable to work with you. And I know that, there's multiple ways to work with you. And I know for me, I said, I want the top way, like whatever that way is. And it was an investment. Like I always encourage people. I'm like, hey, I understand things cost money, but like, do you want to be healed? I love God. I believe in healing. I believe, even I was reading, there's a verse of the day today, which was, whatever you eat or drink, do it to the glory of God. And I'm like, how wonderful is that? I'm meeting with Sabrina today and we're
Yeah.
talking about eating with freedom. To me, that's what it is. Whatever you eat, whatever you drink. And I thought I was broken and that there was something seriously wrong with me. And working with you showed me, oh no, like I'm just dysregulated. So leaning into the nervous system, I like science. I don't study it. I don't read about it. So these things I never heard before.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my goodness, I'm dysregulated. And my husband's like, okay, that's great to know.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's an important piece too, is when you've been in a problem or in a struggle for so long, you feel like you've tried everything and you've probably tried a lot of things, a lot of things that were similar in nature but different in execution. And what can start to happen is because you've been around the block a couple of times, we start, and I experienced this as well, we start to feel like, well, what else is there for me to learn? Like, really, what are you going to teach me that's new that I haven't heard before? And for you, what were some of the things that surprised you the most in learning, in executing new things that you didn't know were important when you started doing this work?
Oh man, I don't know where to begin, but I know for sure the way I handled emotions. I mean, you always hear like emotional leader, eat your emotions, eat your feelings, like, and that, but I didn't know that truly avoiding, like, I didn't know, I don't think anyone likes pain, but I truly would avoid pain. I would just eat to avoid pain. And I knew something about that, but I didn't understand the value of feeling pain and acknowledging pain when I was younger. Like I know we worked through that. Like, hey, what would you tell that child? What, can you go sit beside them and have a conversation? I'm like, oh, I never would have thought to have a conversation with my, 12-year-old self
Yep.
about things. So that was surprising only because, oh, and what was really hard at first was I allowed myself to feel my emotions. I started crying more, which I don't like to do.
Yep.
I started crying more. I started getting angry more. I started feeling things more. And I was like, oh no, like this is bad. Like in my mind, I thought this is not good because all this frustration and anger, it's just now just coming out. But what I realized was I never voiced it. I never gave it like a place to sit. I never sat with it. That's what it was. Because instead of sitting with it, what you do, you just go and eat.
Yeah.
So that was it. That was a hard thing because it was painful. You get an email, you get a thing, you're like, oh gosh, this is so hard. This is so heavy. But like you would always tell me, it's going to pass like a wave. It just passes. So if you just sit with it for a second or, and sometimes it's not just a second, let's be real. But that was huge for me, Sabrina, really feeling the sadness, the disappointment, whatever it was. And then I wasn't hungry. In fact, I became like one of those people that don't eat.
Yeah.
I always wondered, like, how do they get through that? And they're like, oh, I'm losing weight. And then I realized, oh, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
They're allowing themselves to feel.
I love that you talk about this because it's easy to talk about, like, 4 months later, 5 months later, the beauty and the transformation and the results, but I don't think we talk about enough, like, the first couple of weeks, the first couple of months might look a little challenging, and things are going to come up. And you mentioned at the beginning, like, as I was going through it, I kept telling you, Sabrina, this is hard work. And it is. And unless you are willing to experience that discomfort in order to get to the other side, like, if you continue to avoid that discomfort and avoid the challenges and the hardships that come with healing, then you will stay in your comfort zone and you will experience different types of challenges. And when you were going through it and you were feeling like, oh, I'm more angry, I'm crying more, things are coming up, if you don't have someone who's able to say, hey, what you're going through is normal, here's how to handle it, here's what to do next, it's very easy to think, I'm doing something wrong, I must be on the wrong path, let me go back to what I know that is safe for me.
Yes. And I think something you kept saying is that this is totally normal. This is actually what happens. I mean, we're human beings and we're going to experience hard times and good times. And when we just brush stuff aside and we don't take a look at it, we're going to start running to different things to console us and to cope. And it was a huge eye-opener. To this day, I am so thankful for that tool because I now can feel things and it's still hard like anybody else. And then I'm able to I don't run to food, and I'm still working on, it's not perfect. I mean, it's probably like, we're almost about at a year of becoming friends. And
oh my God, time flies. I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. A year.
I know. And, like people, like when you listen, oh, and I never have this problem anymore. And I know, no, it just takes on a different shape. And I'm able to now kind of deal with emotions and see them for what they are, and then understand that this will pass. Like, I will deal with this. It's the same thing, like right now, it's when I'm tired. So now that's what I'm working on. When I get tired, I tend to overeat. And so it's like, okay, how can I work on that? How can I set myself up for success? And what are some of the steps I can do? But I wouldn't have been able to kind of dissect that the way I am without the tools and without somebody saying, hey, this is normal. This is a part of it. I realize I'm 47. So this has been like, gosh, 30 something years of my life of living one way. And then there's a year of living. So of course there's going to be, I'm like a baby. I'm learning how to walk. I'm learning how to crawl.
Yeah.
And I think I always heard that, Sabrina. I always heard that analogy. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. It's so bad. I'm like, no, you either need to get it or don't get it. And it was just for me. This is not for someone else.
Yeah.
It's like, this is for you because this is the kind of person you are. You're a hard worker and you're productive. And now I'm like, you know what I'm learning? Okay. Like, I'm learning, this is so new. And so even a year out, I would say to somebody like, you don't have to have it all together. There's no perfect path. And I think you do a great job of communicating that in your podcast. I could be like, hey, I had this thought. I'm like, where did this come from? And I think that's another thing, is thinking about thoughts. I know for me, the Bible says to take every thought captive, which means to throw it in jail, make it obedient to God. So you kind of put it against like who God says you are and, what you do with that. And you always talk about that, like your thought, it's just a thought. And so whatever you think about that thought is up to you. And so you either lock it up, and it doesn't mean you don't address it or look at it, But you decide, is this true? Is this accurate? Is this good? And I never thought about those things. I only thought about calories in, calories out, and willpower and muscling through. And I want to share to you, if you don't mind,
Of course.
when we started working together, I did gain about 10 pounds. And I don't want to say this to scare anybody. I actually want to say this to like encourage people because it can be very, very scary at first because you're like, oh no, I'm losing control. But I've, I'm not trying to say, oh, and then you'll lose that weight. And you may not even want to lose that weight. You may decide that's where you're really good and feel great. But I did lose most of that weight. It took time because I realized there was so much that I had to work through. But once I started using the tools and stuff, I actually ended up getting into that healthy range for my body. I discovered what worked for my body and what weight felt good in my body. No one was telling me, no BMI chart was telling me, no Weight Watcher person was telling me. I made that decision and you encouraged me that I would get to that point. And I just remember in the beginning thinking, and some of our members too, I know that can be very hard. And so don't worry about those things. Just worry about the healing journey and your body will. I did not trust myself. So at the time, I didn't think my body would figure out where it needed to be.
Yeah.
But the more we worked on that self-trust, the more my body got into a range that I felt like I don't get on the scale anymore. Can you believe it?
Right. It blows my mind.
I don't. I love my Weight Watchers friends. I'm going to see them still. We're buds. But I stopped going to the meetings because I felt like this is kind of, the support is great. The community is great, but you're always faced with that scale.
Mm-hmm.
And you also really focused on behaviors. So you said, if you keep doing this behaviors, don't you think your weight will be where you want it to be?
Yeah.
It made so much sense. But at the same time, my mind only knew one way.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to encourage people that if they're feeling like, okay, if I do this, if I start, and you have such a great approach to how to reintroduce foods. You're like one at a time, take it slow, like sit down, enjoy. That was another thing. There's too many. We could have podcasts for years.
Yeah. Well, it's also helpful because sometimes I forget, sometimes I forget all of the different things that we do and we talk about in the program. And I love that you brought up the weight thing. And there's a reason why I have repeated a million times on the podcast that I am at a heavier weight now than I was when I was at my smallest weight before I started this healing journey. And at the time, had you told that really sick and unhealed version of me, you're going to need to gain weight and you're going to become the happiest and healthiest version of you in the process, I would have said no. And I did have to gain a little bit more weight than where I am now in order to learn how to change the way that I thought about food, the way that I felt around food, the way that I behaved around food. And you mentioned these two words over and over again. And I feel like if there's one way to summarize the biggest thing that you develop throughout this process is self-trust.
Yes. I was trying, when I was thinking about doing this podcast, I'm like, what is it that I would want people to know is possible? Because I think that's why we run to diets, right? We run, help me, help me. I can't do this. Like, I can't trust, someone needs to tell me what to do. And there is benefit to that. Because obviously, you never told me what to do. You never did. You never said, quit Weight Watchers. You never said, you always just would use phrases I love, like, what does it look like if, or could you
lots of questions. Yeah.
you get curious about, and then you make your own. And then that way it really isn't like, well, Sabrina, well, that is a famous phrase in our house. Sabrina says, the kids know, my husband knows. That's what she says. Everyone's like, who's Sabrina? I'm like, she's my friend, Sabrina. Listen to her. She knows what she's talking about. But that definitely is so true. Self-trust. Like, you just don't think that you can trust yourself because for so long you couldn't, but it's not your fault. See, that's the thing, is that you learn about diet mentality and that you reveal so much about it, especially early on in the program, that you're like, oh my goodness, the veil has been lifted.
Mm-hmm.
I see now. That makes a lot of sense. But then still you feel like, but no, I need it. This is what's helped me in the past. You don't know another way.
Yeah.
But you have to build the evidence. And that's another thing we talked about for self-trust. And then, like now it's so fun. Like I went to Maui and you know what was cool? I was like, when we did this trip and I thought, you know what? I might gain some weight. Okay. I'm on vacation. I don't eat like this all the time. Like it's fine. I'll check in. It's good. Came back. I don't know if I gained weight because I didn't get on the scale, but I could feel that my clothes felt a little differently. And then guess what? I just it feels really good to eat this way when I'm home. So next thing you know, just a couple of days later, I feel the same as I did. But I never did that on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I always went, I had a plan and it's okay to have a plan. I had a plan. I sent it to you.
Yeah.
But you just get all weird about these things, or even like holidays. What if I'm up, or winter? Like for you, I'm in California, so I have no excuse. But, Montreal is cold.
Yep.
I can imagine you want to be in a blanket all day. But to me, that has been the huge thing. I can trust myself. I can trust that I can come back from vacation and just get right back to what I was doing and get back to my class. And it was huge. Sabrina, thank you so much. Like, I'm so grateful to God for you, and you have a gift and you truly love your clients. I mean, you say it to us all the time. I love you guys, on the podcast, but it's true. And I just want to encourage anybody, if you are able at any point to get into any kind of program, I know you're always offering such generous opportunities for people to be a part of things. And I still go into the calls when I can or I go back and listen, because I need that constant reminder.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful. I'm so thankful. Thank you for spending your precious time with me. And, friends, like we can do this. It is possible. I really thought it was, but it is.
Thank you so much for those words. And I really do love my clients. I love being able to see women like you who were ready to do the work. And, I accept your gratitude, but I'm going to bring it right back to you, because you have yourself to thank, right? You did the work. You put it into action. You came to our calls so prepared. I was like, the Mandie is me, with the notes and the lists and the action plans, like that like warmed my heart. And it's not necessary. You don't need to take the notes. You don't need to have the list. Like, it doesn't need to be your full-time job. And that was another thing, is I don't think it was your full-time job. It wasn't. You were able to live your life. You were able to continue on and be there for your family. But you have yourself to thank for doing this work. So do you have any last words for anyone who is in that very familiar space, which is, I have tried everything. I have tried so much. And all of these things that Mandie's talking about, that Sabrina's talking about, sound so good. And I want it so badly. But I genuinely don't even know if it's possible for me anymore.
Just take one step. Don't think of the whole mountain, just the one step. And I think that first step is to DM you and to ask you for a call, because that was my thing. I'm like, what do I got to lose with just reaching out to her and saying, hey, I would love to talk to you, because you offer that. And that first phone call that we had, or the Zoom call, you were able to explain the program. You listened to me, you listened to my struggle, you listened, and you laid it out. This is what the program looks like, the pillars, all the different things. And then asked great questions. You asked great questions. And I was like, yeah. And then there was no rush. There was no forcefulness. It was like, think about it. And here's the details. And you can take whatever next step from there. But I would encourage people to reach out to you for that initial consultation, just to see what that does.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's too big of a hill to climb
Yeah.
right now. It's too much.
Yeah.
You just need that next step.
Before you go, I want to share something so exciting with you. If food has been taking up way too much mental space in your life, if you feel like you have tried everything but still don't trust yourself around food, and if you're tired of starting over, white knuckling, or wondering why eating feels so hard, my signature program, the Food Freedom Academy, is officially open. This is the program where I help women heal their relationship with food at the root, not through more rules or willpower, but by rebuilding trust with your body, calming food noise, and creating a relationship with food that actually feels peaceful and sustainable. For a few short days, enrollment is open and there's a special offer available, including extra support from me to help you integrate this work instead of trying to do this alone. This special offer is only available until Thursday, January 22nd at midnight. So if you're hearing this right now, it means this is your chance. If something inside you is thinking, okay, I don't want to keep living this way, or I am ready for food to stop running my life, I would love to support you. You can learn more and see if this feels like the right next step for you at sabrinamagnan.com/freedom. That link will also be in the show notes. Doors are closing soon, so if you're curious, head to sabrinamagnan.com/freedom to find out how to join me inside.